All right.
Okay, it's 6 p.m. I still see some folks coming in, but we're recording, so I'm going to go ahead and introduce Mickey so we can get started. This is Mickey O'Brien. He's a partner of the city's, volunteering his personal time to go over conservancies. We have some interest in town in forming that kind of a entity, so this is an opportunity to hear about conservancies in general, what they look like, what they take to uh, get started, and hopefully it inspires some conversations within the community. Uh, Mickey may or may not have some time for some questions, I believe, too. But I'll go
Okay.
ahead and pass it off to him.
Okay. Thank you, Ned. And good early evening to everyone who's participating in this presentation. Again, my name is Mickey O'Brien. I am a landscape architect who've been working in the industry for not well over 30 years. So I've been working with conservancies off and on throughout my career, and I'm looking forward to providing you an overview of a conservancy, some of the benefits, some of the challenges, how to create one, and then examples of other conservancies throughout Atlanta, and some throughout the Southeast. With that said, I did want to mention that conservancies are not the silver bullet to solve all your park problems. I believe it's probably the best tool to raise funds and improve your projects and your parks. But it takes hard work, it takes dedication, a commitment, and it takes patience. And so we'll get into that just a bit more as we move forward here. All right, so a Parks Conservancy, and again, I'm kind of looking at two different screens here. So if I take my eyes off you, it's to look at my PowerPoint. But a Parks Conservancy is basically a nonprofit organization that partners with the city to support and enhance your public parks and open spaces through fundraising, volunteer coordination, and community stewardship. Now, I want to make it very clear. The city retains ownership and control of the parks. This is not a privatization of your parks in any sense in any regards. So I just want to make that clear. So really, Conservancy is a nonprofit partner to the city. Their dedication and focus is really on the parks, on your parks. They raise funds, pursue grants, support maintenance, improvements, and programming. But again, the city retains ownership and approvals of all the work that a conservancy may propose to do. In many cases, they will have a member, maybe an elected official as part of the board, but not part of the day-to-day or weekly activities, but just an oversight, more or less. So really the purpose of a conservancy is to supplement limited funding associated with parks. Um, and this applies to just about every city I have worked in. There's just never enough money for parks. And I feel like this is the most appropriate tool for the city of Pine Lake. I live in Brookhaven, and they passed a parks bond, and I sat on their parks bond committee to make sure their funds were allocated appropriately to what the community wanted. But that entailed raising, a tax. So I think this is the best, most effective way to improve the parks. not only now, but for future generations. Engages volunteers and residents. It again, a pursuit of grants and private donations. There's more flexibility with a nonprofit conservancy to get funding than say a municipality. So that's the other benefit and that's an incredible benefit. So there's more flexibility and tracking down private donations and things of that nature. As I mentioned, well, the cities, from what I've read and what I've researched and what I know about the city of Pine Lake, your commitment to the environmental stewardships and parks is really above most, if not all, cities I've worked in. So I think you're ahead of the game in those respects. When you have limited municipality resources, the Conservancy can offset that over time. For example, Piedmont Park Conservancy started with two individuals who were volunteers. Now they're up to a staff of 50 to 60, somewhere in there. But it takes time, and but they maintain the park. They issue RFPs with city's approval um, for design, so they will manage the RFP process. And once it gets more established, but all of this is under the oversight of the city. I just want to make that crystal clear. It promotes strong volunteer culture, and really, I think it can bring the community even closer together. And last but not least, it maintains a consistent vision and purpose. Long after city leadership changes, as you set a goal, a mission statement, and some guiding principles, and you stick to those, and over time, for future generations, they can pick up the ball and run with it. So it also sets the bar on what is expected for future generations or future folks who want to join the Conservancy. So I think that's very important to note. Financial benefits of a conservancy. Again, it enables more flexibility to acquire resources, funding, grants. Cities can apply for grants, but things such as donations from wealthy individuals or corporations and things of that nature, conservancies have a lot more flexibility to seek those out. And also the Conservancy, once it gets in place and rolling, they can support the grant applications, community outreach, and partnerships, all underneath the overview or umbrella of the city leadership. Some operational benefits here. Expands the capacity for maintenance events and volunteer labor, reduces the sole reliance on limited municipal tax base. Again, that is not specific to the city of Pine Lake. That is across the board, and it's even more important these days. Funds are hard to come by, and unfortunately, what I consider one of the most important assets of a community or a city is parks and open space. They're usually the first to get defunded. It provides flexibility to pilot programs or improvements more quickly than municipal processes allow. So it's more nimble, and it can get things done quicker, and the results can be identified and experienced by the citizens and people who visit the city of Pine Lake. why Pine Lake is a good fit for a conservancy. You have an established history of supporting environmental stewardship and park use. I mean, Pine Lake itself is a historic feature. And so I think that just underscores the importance of having a dedicated team or conservancy that can manage and make improvements over time. We've talked about it also embodies a strong volunteer culture. You're a small but very engaged and very informed community. And so again, I think that this tool, the Conservancy tool, is a good opportunity for the city of Pine Lake to consider. So how do you start a conservancy? All right. So the first thing is you need to define. First thing you want to do is identify champions who also believe and want this your parks to be the best they can be, even long after we're all gone on this call. So this essentially sets, I'm not going to, well, not a constitution, but it sets the principles, the guiding principles for future generations to follow. And again, based on my knowledge of the city of Pine Lake, your stewardship, your environmental protection, and leveraging all of that information and your assets is very unique, and you've already got that. So we're not starting from scratch here. What ties the city and the Conservancy together is a memorandum of understanding or a memorandum of agreement. Within that, it outlines really the roles and responsibilities of the Conservancy and the city. And many of them are the same, but they're also customized to a certain degree based on, the specific location. So some of the challenges I just want to point out with the Conservancy, because nothing, yeah, not nothing, but great things happen with hard work and dedication and passion, right? And I feel strongly the citizens of Pine Lake have embodied all of those characteristics. But it does require committed board members and champions over time. And if you go into this, you want to go in with success in mind. And many other conservancies, not just in Georgia, but across the country. Georgia is actually somewhere in the middle of the pack when it comes to park conservancies. The first conservancy, by the way, was established in Central Park in 1980 due to the neglect of Central Park. So since then, they have sprouted all over the country. Um, Fundraising takes time, right? And I mentioned that you have to be patient. The early years are typically generate modest, and maybe not immediate funding. But you just have to keep chopping wood and stay the course. And over time, I think you will see the results if you find the dedication and the champions to make this happen. So equity and public access, it's important to ensure the park remains public, inclusive, and transparent. And many of the donors will insist that. That's been my experience over the course of my career. So there's some administrative complexities, nonprofit setup, insurance, reporting, and expertise in getting these established. Um, and then the risk of overpromising. So, starting too big and making too many promises can backfire on you. So, start small, make small improvements, and continue to increase your scope and magnitude of what you can and accomplish as funding and participants really get on board with the Conservancy. So benefits of a park conservancy, again, access to more flexibility to access funds, enables donations, sponsorships, and grants that are typically not available to cities. Enhance maintenance and capital improvements. Supplement city resources for amenities, landscaping, and repairs. So when Piedmont Park Conservancy started, again, there were two people. There was still, a partnership with the city in terms of maintenance and things of that nature and capital improvements. But over time, Piedmont Park is taking over all of those activities under the approval and oversight of the city of Atlanta, as outlined in the MOU. We've talked about volunteer coordination. This does, I think, it provides structure to the parks and maintenance and things of that nature. It can get pretty chaotic when you're trying to program parks, when you're trying to maintain parks, when you're trying to make capital improvement parks, who's doing what. And well, this provides a structure, right? That allows everything to move forward in a much more structured way. We talked about the faster implementation on small projects, that typically is much more efficient. And the long-term park sustainability, I mentioned that sort of in the intro there, builds a capacity to care for the park beyond annual city budgets and elections. So it sets the bar for future park improvements, and maintaining the vision that was initially developed by the Conservancy over time, and through generations. So what one recommendation, when you're stepping your foot in the water, right, to see how cold it is to maybe do a pilot project and maybe a 1 year pilot project and see how it's evolving, right? See if you're getting those champions. I think the city of Pine Lake has a tremendous opportunity to raise the bar and provide improvements that others admire and appreciate. So these are some goals for consideration within a 1 year pilot project. You start off by identifying or recruiting 5 to 7 volunteer board members, establish a mission statement, execute the MOU with the city, and then maybe look at maybe delivering 2 to 3 visible park improvements over the course of the year. So you're not biting off too much. You're showing the capabilities, you're showing improvements, and actions speak louder than words, right? So and then again, hosts 4 volunteer work days and try and raise some seed funding. So that would be a reasonable expectation, maybe for a pilot project, and see how it evolves. But that is something that I would recommend, um, is a pilot project. So now we're going to talk about a case study again, Piedmont Park. We've kind of talked about all of these things here, but they're a nonprofit to the city of Atlanta. They supports the legacy of the park. The city retains ownership. The Conservancy raises funds and delivers the projects. And when I have worked on projects at Piedmont Park, I was under contract with the Conservancy. And in many cases, I think that's better because the people who are champions of parks, it's a burning desire, I think, for them and a passion to select the most qualified consultants and really nail down exactly what you're trying to achieve. Sometimes, like we'll just say for the city of Atlanta, that process can take months and months, and it can just be a lot of red tape. But if you were to use a conservancy, they can work through that process much quicker. So since 1989, Piedmont Park has raised roughly $66 million. I think I think now they're, about 3.5 million per year is really how their funds are coming in. And they were founded in 1989, which I mentioned earlier. There's another one in DeKalb County. These are two areas that I'm actively working in and or have worked in. And so I thought this would be another one to bring up, which I'm currently working on. And that's the Legacy Park Conservancy in Decatur. I think it's a 66 or 70 acre park. It was a former orphanage, and the city is continuing to deliver new projects. So some examples of park conservancies in the Southeast, we've talked about Piedmont Park, Grant Park, Freedom Park Conservancy, Chastain, Murphy Candler, South Fork Conservancy, Legacy Park Conservancy, which I've touched on, the Chattahoochee National Park Conservancy, Friends of Forsyth Park in Savannah, Georgia. Now, Charleston has a Parks Conservancy that's citywide. So that many parks are, the Conservancy has a key role in maintaining and managing and the RFP process and selecting consultants. And then obviously there's the Railroad Park in Birmingham. If you haven't been to that, it's pretty unique and is worth visiting if you're passing through that way. But overall, Georgia's sort of in the middle of the pack with major metro areas in terms of, well, actually they're behind major metro areas within the country. They're kind of middle of the pack nationally, but when it comes to major metro areas, they're more in the middle of they're behind. They're not even middle of the pack. So these are national, right? It's not just Georgia. It's all across the country. They can be called, you've heard the terms friends of such and such park, the term can be whatever you really want it to be, well, within reason, but you do hear friends of such and such park a lot. Well, they're a nonprofit, and function as a conservancy with an MOU in place with the city. So just wanted to touch on that. And I mentioned the very first part, Conservancy was in Central Park. So, we got to plant that seed, right? And, we got to take a step forward. Dreams and aspirations and things that you want to manifest take movement, they take action. If we just sit around and hope, it's not going to happen, right? I really feel like the universe doesn't owe us anything. We really owe our earth, our actions, our expertise, and our hard work to make these happen. So You, this is kind of a diagram. You have an initial idea, a foundation, you're planting that seed of possibility. You develop a small group, it takes root. Then you expand it and look for partnerships to flourish. And then at the end of the day, you want sustained success that others can appreciate and admire and see the results of the hard work that the Conservancies provided. Um, let's see, I think that's really it for what I had prepared for this presentation. I really wanted to provide the overview, which I've talked about, but then open it up for any questions or comments or concerns that you may have. But this is a very good tool to utilize to improve your park systems, providing structure, providing more flexibility, and more efficient progress on your park systems or park. So with that said, Ned, I'll turn it back over to you for questions or comments. And I'll stay the remain as long as I need to address comments and questions.
That's very kind, Mickey, and I'll be quick. I'm just sort of facilitating things here.
Sure.
But if anybody wants to ask a question, I think it would be cool if you could use your hand raising feature or do as Mr. Navarga has done and drop into the chat. Um, Actually, if you don't mind, let's do the chat because then I can call on people in order. Uh,
Okay.
so Kathy has a question. Kathy, you can come off mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Good.
Loud
Thank
and
you.
clear.
Thank you, Mickey. That was very instructional. So I have a question. The
Yes.
city of Pine Lake already has three separate small nonprofits.
Right.
Would it be advisable to start a fourth, or could the Conservancy start as a uh, there's a term for it that just flew out of my head. Um,
Mhm.
Use another nonprofit as the official organ while it's getting started. And the reason I ask
Yeah.
is it's easy to start a little nonprofit, but once
Hmm.
your revenues start hitting over 50 grand, your reporting structure is completely different. So all three of our little nonprofits right now are below that threshold. Um,
Hmm.
Adding something like the Conservancy to one would eventually tip us into a different reporting scheme. But I don't know what you
Yeah.
thoughts you might have about that.
Kathy, that's a great question, by the way, and thank you for asking it. Um, So my initial response is to me things get more fragmented and less collaborative when you have multiple groups or nonprofits. And if you could roll them all underneath one, especially the size of your city, roll them under one nonprofit would be my recommendation. And then, rather than having your other nonprofits with their thoughts you meet together and you just work through it. Is everyone going to agree with every single thing? No, that's just this how we are as humans, right? I try and think of what is the best solution or idea for the greater common good of your city. It's really easy when you get into smaller groups or committees that aren't frequently meeting or have different agendas to fragment that collaborative process. And So I would recommend, Kathy, that it would be all within a one nonprofit conservancy. Now, the members who are leading that, the other nonprofits would, it sounds like to me, they would be great champions. But we have to work together, right? It's inevitable. Again, we're going to disagree on certain things, but focus on what is the best for the community, not just during our lifetime, but also future generations. And it's easy to get bogged down in little specifics, but when that happens, I try and back up and zoom out and think of what's best for the greater community now and in the future. So, Kathy, I would say I would look at combining that because you could have another nonprofit pop up and another one pop up, and everyone's got their own focus and ideas. So let's collectively put them in one. That would be my recommendation. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for the question.
Kathy added in the chat that fiscal sponsorship was the phrase that she was looking for. Next, we have Mira. You can go ahead and come off mute when you like.
Hello, thank you so
Yep.
much for great presentation. But I have a question about Conservancy as a whole. To me, Pine Lake is city of Pine Lake is a park. So when you are
Yes.
speaking Conservancy, are you talking about Pine Lake as a whole, or are you talking that we bring down to the parks or east wetland, west wetlands? I mean, I don't know if I
Yeah.
ask right question.
No,
Can you understand
no.
what I'm trying to ask?
Yes, ma'am. So Charleston, which is, it's not apples to apples, but they have parks spread out their city, and they have one conservancy that, provides sort of the legwork and the maintenance for those parks. The city of Pine Lake is at a size where I think it could fall all within one umbrella, one conservancy. The wetlands, the lake, the trails, all of that really relate to the lake experience and providing that water quality that we all desire. So I think they're all hand in hand, Mira.
Okay, thank you. I have another question. Like,
Yes.
does Conservancy is focusing only on funding and bringing money, or does it actually volunteers do groundwork as Seeds does right now?
Yeah, so initially, depending on who has connections and it also depends on yeah. So your question is initially, it's probably going to be more of a volunteer organization of like-minded individuals who want to improve your parks. Um, just like Piedmont Park, it started with two individuals. And at that point in time, they had more support from the city of Atlanta. But as it grew, the city of Atlanta just kind of backed out. And they just provide a member on the board and also prior to an RFP being released or any park improvement, the city it would need from city approval. So that's yeah. So I would say volunteer efforts would be initially absolutely part of the puzzle.
Okay, and now third question about we have already actually we should have scheduled maintenance schedule for wetlands and for lake. Unfortunately, We didn't
Mhm.
see it. We don't see that often. So what I can see, we have this conservancy and maintenance work kind of
Mhm.
collaborating. How that is implemented, how you suggest that everybody work and everybody walk on the same line.
Yeah, so the first thing I think is identifying the champions of this conservancy and really starting with a mission, right? And that mission is what guide and your guiding principles sort of direct you. The details of the MOU in terms of what responsibility would Public Works have versus the Conservancy, that could be spelled out within this pilot project. Um, what I will say is, in most cases, ideally, you want public works to focus on the bones of the city, not meaning parks aren't the bones, they're the very important bones of the city. But public works focusing on, the trash pickup, sewer, potential drainage issues, more of the hardcore infrastructure elements of the city that sometimes just go unnoticed because, it's just, oh, somebody's picked up the trash today, all right, but we don't want to overload your parks, your public works department to the point where, one, they may not have the expertise or knowledge to deal with the parks. And I'm not pointing in anyone there, but their expertise is maybe more geared to keeping the city running, right? And your water flowing and your toilets flushing and your trash picked up. When you try and spread the peanut butter too thin, right, you're not going to have much of a sandwich, I guess is one analogy to put there. So that's the beauty of the Conservancy is they take more of an ownership of that aspect of your city and let the public works continue and elevate even their services because now they'll have more time to dedicate to sort of the nuts and bolts of the city.
Okay, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for the
Thank you, Mira.
question. Yeah.
We have a next question is from Pat Hamilton. Pat, you had outlined it a little bit, but I figure you might like the chance to interface with Mickey a bit. So if you want to come off mute, you can go right
Okay.
ahead.
All righty. Thank you so much. I appreciate your work. Can you hear me now, Ned?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, fine. Thank you. It was a very good presentation. My question is just sort of the legal structure of how this would develop based on Kathy's analysis of the multiple nonprofits in Pine
Mhm.
Lake and how this conservancy could perhaps come under the umbrella was the term I was thinking of before,
Yes.
umbrella type of motif. If you do that, how do you arrange for a separate memorandum of understanding? There clearly can't be there's very different goals and aspirations from some of those groups, not always in agreement, perhaps. How do you work that?
Well, I don't know Pat, great question. I don't know the details of the MOU between the city and I think it's Seed is in Plain. I don't know the details of the MOU within there. Is there a timeline kind of thing that as of such and such date, we either need to renew the MOU? Or is
Well,
this MOU and does not have a timeline? There
uh,
comes a point. Go ahead.
sorry, Mickey. I didn't want you to feel like you necessarily need to answer that. That may be a conversation for city administration,
Yeah,
um, and residents more familiar with the missions of those three
that's right.
nonprofits. Um, but I think the
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think it's definitely a good question, especially if there's any interest in lumping those together.
yeah,
Figuring that out would be necessary.
that's right. And Pat, I'm sorry I don't have the specifics to answer your question. But one thing, it's just not hands in the dirt, right? It's just not, if there's an attorney, right, or attorneys within the city of Pine Lake, you ask them to volunteer to review the MOUs and how can we combine these under one, right? So the volunteerism does not end with manual labor and design, right? The volunteerism, really, to your point, Pat, it would be great to have an attorney, a local attorney, read through
I am a lawyer.
Okay, then
That's why I raised the question.
you got a champion. Yeah, that's a little, yeah. So I think you could read through those, Pat, and then determine how you could combine them under
Well, the
one.
city attorney may have some information on this too.
Yeah,
Much more hands-on, I
yeah.
believe.
And I'm sorry,
Thank you.
I just don't have the details and the knowledge, the
That's fine.
attorney
I appreciate that.
that
Thank you. I
you.
just thought it's a question that should be addressed.
That's a great question. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
I That appears to wrap up the questions for Mickey from the chat. I want to give anybody else before we wrap it up an opportunity to ask any questions. Looks like Councilmember Goldberg has a question, so you can come off
Yeah.
mute when you're ready, sir.
Hey, Mickey, thanks a bunch for your time and your
Yes, sir.
we appreciate that. Do you have any understanding of how a conservancy works when there's involvement with the Corps of Engineers, where there's federal, state,
Mm.
and even county implications in terms of a park?
Yes, sir. So what my experience has been, Jeff, now I wasn't working with Piedmont Park Conservancy when they had two employees, but once they got established to 10 or so employees, they would issue an RFP or they would have an on-call with a particular consultant. And that is you put that responsibility on the consultant because that can take a lot of time dealing with the Corps of Engineers and things of that nature. But the conservancy would once it's established and it's, let's see, expanded, right? And to my slide there, they would issue the RFP. They would select the consultant again with city oversight, right, or a board member from the city. But that type of coordination with the Corps of Engineers, Jeff, and EPD, and other agencies, and unless you've got the time and the knowledge and the contacts with all of these people, I would I would issue an RFP for that, and put that on them because there's also liability issues associated with that, and that would resolve you from the liabilities that you could put onto the consultant, the selected consultant.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you for the question. Or let me know, Ned, if there are more questions popping in.
Yeah, we have one from Mira. Mira, if you don't mind, I'll go ahead and read it. But if you need to further qualify it, feel free to come off mute. Mira says, "Does a member of Conservancy have to be a citizen of the city of Pine Lake?"
No, no, not at all. No, not at all. It's a nonprofit organization, and it could be you could let's just say All right. I know someone who's been a part of a very successful conservancy. I want to bring them on board to lead ours, right? And that happens frequently.
Okay. Um, Last call for questions. While any others come in, I do want to mention you brought up Legacy Park. That is
Yeah.
my favorite park to visit in my
Oh,
general
yeah.
area.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah,
it
we're
was
home.
a story of, I was apprehensive when the construction started, disrupting that area, but now that it's really taken root and I see the benefit and it's wonderful.
Yeah, and it's only going to get better. We're I have a shared use path being constructed right now along the frontage of the park, and it's almost complete. We got one or two little hiccups we're resolving now, but um, yeah, all through South Columbia Drive, you'll see a shared use path through that area. We use a lot of green infrastructure as well along the roadside to treat the first flush and even through the neighborhood there with sidewalk constructions and things of that nature. But yeah, it's got a lot of potential.
Yeah,
Uh,
very, very
yeah,
beautiful
it
area.
really
And
does.
we
Yeah,
do have, it looks like
yeah.
we do have another resident jumped in. Uh,
Okay.
and Mary Schumann wants to know about next steps, community in-person meeting, who will call it and facilitate. I think this really gets at what is what would the community's role be in actually getting this started, and maybe what does that look like? Mary, if I mischaracterize that, feel free to correct me.
Well, I think the first thing you want to do is you want to identify champions, and I know just from this call that there is a lot of passion with the citizens of Pine Lake, but you want to identify champions. It certainly helps if those champions have some connections to funding or people who are willing to fund. That's all. That's something to consider seriously, because at the end of the day, yeah, you want to set the mission, right? The principles of the Conservancy. And they want to be somewhat bulletproof, so they can last, you know, for future generations. Um, but you really want to see who is willing to volunteer and step up and take this on, either is a purely volunteer effort, and that's usually how these start. And as things progress and as funding comes in, then they may be a part-time employee, right? As things evolve over time, they may be a full-time employee. Frankly, all the 50 employees at Piedmont Park Conservancy are full-time employees. So, but they started with two people, right? I would suggest, hopefully, I'm trying, I really do encourage you all to take the leap here, because if it's not structured, if it's not organized, it's going to be chaotic, right? If it's structured and everyone's meeting once the champions have been identified or stepped up to the plate, then those discussions can happen, right? And say one meeting a month rather than, or every, you might start off right, bi-monthly, but with a 1 year pilot project, I would say meet at a minimum once a month. And you work through these issues, right? And everyone maintains a sense of professionalism, and they're looking at the greater common good. And that is really what I just want to re-emphasize. everyone wants their particular thing. And I know this because I've worked on parks throughout my career, and typically people think parks are their backyards, right? You can't, you know. So the first step, Ned, is to call to order or informally or formally, however the city would like to do it. And but set up a time and a place for people who are interested in participating in this and seeing how their hard work and their contributions have led. There's nothing more gratifying and satisfying in my career than seeing people enjoying, families enjoying work that I've been involved in. And that would be the same gratification that you would receive. So there is initially a non-financial gratification you will get by stepping up and really taking on this structure, this conservancy structure. Um, there's an educational, environmental education aspect to it. The Conservancy could take on. There's probably a school teacher, or well, the teachers. My sister's a school teacher. I know how much they're overworked, but there could be a retired teacher who's very interested in passing down the environmental stewardship principles to the younger generation. That would be a fantastic a component of the Conservancy. We really need to get the children back out in the woods. We really need to show them what a owl looks like or a hawk, and not just on their phone. We're at a point, right? We're at a crossroads where it needs to happen. And I make this preach, this statement to everyone I meet with about parks. Um, if we get too far down the road and we're not immersing and educating our children about the importance of the environment and how it is our livelihood of our life, then we're going to be in deep trouble. And so I encourage you all, whether you're part of the Conservancy or not, get the children out on nice days, not when it's, freezing in March, but on nice days, get them out and let them immerse them in the natural environment. And people who are having mentally ill issues, get them out in the natural environment. Nature can heal so much, and we take it for granted. And we need to step back in time and remember when our parents walked us through the woods and we could hear the leaves under our feet and we could know what an oak tree looks like, or we could show someone or a child what the largest tree in the city of Pine Lake is. Well, wouldn't that be cool? I'm not, y'all have got a lot of trees, but is the largest tree been identified, and where is it? Is there a tree tour? It goes on, right? But I think at the end of the day, I really want to get us all, but most importantly, our children back into the natural environment. And the Conservancy is a fantastic structure that could have that component in it. I would like to see the city of Pine Lake lead the Southeast, if not the country, in providing that environmental education deficiency that is currently ongoing throughout the world. So and then I'll end it with, the more you fragment things, the harder it is to get things accomplished, right? So that's the beauty of a conservancy rather than multiple nonprofits.
It's a great charge, Mickey,
Yeah.
and I will say I see another, and it looks like our public works director has a question and a tag on statement.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Can everybody hear me? Thanks. Does anybody else have any questions or comments? I kind of wanted to have the last word and wanted to make sure everybody got all of their questions, concerns answered.
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye on the chat, Bernard, and it looks like unless there's any, I don't want to call them stragglers, but
Hmm.
unless there's any stragglers,
You just did.
okay.
Go
Kathy
Yeah,
ahead.
has got one more question.
yeah.
The
Go
floor is
ahead.
yours, Kathy.
Go ahead, Kathy.
This is Jane. I think Kathy's
Uh,
question was up above. She asked, is funding generally corporate, foundation, or individual? And what's the percent breakdown that a conservancy might like to see?
Yeah, well, I think that's going to vary between conservancies, Jane. Um, yeah, what typically, so I'm just gonna throw out a couple of things. So, a conservancy has like a landmark lunch, right? And they invite potential donors or participants or people who are interested. And so that's one way to get some good PR and also to look at raising money. But the mix of that, Jane, I think it's going to vary from conservancy to conservancy. One may be more grant focused, but I will say that the ones that, well, in particular, Piedmont Park, I mean, they're dealing with, Arthur Blank Foundation, Bernie Marcus Foundation, that kind of thing. And you could imagine the tax write-offs those men have, right? And the good they want to do for the community or the city or Metro Atlanta as a whole. So it really depends on the conservancy, who they know, and or they have more grants coming in, or they have more, private funding from corporations or individuals coming in. But Piedmont Park is probably at this point in time, since they're established, they probably yearly have the same contributors to their efforts. And don't like throwing out another other consultants, but there are consultants. Once things get established a bit more and things are moving forward, um, there are consultants that have these connections to these individuals, and they help you set up a campaign strategy and with a timeline, but you have to identify the projects first, right? That usually the donor wants to know, what are you doing and when's it going to be built? So a lot of times these donations come and the grants come with a schedule and a timeline. And so conservancies can usually make those happen more quickly. But to your point, Jane, I kind of got off topic here. It really depends on the conservancy, how long they've been established, and who they're dealing with. I do encourage you, if this is something you all want to embark on, is set up a meeting or meetings with these executive directors at these conservancies, because they're going to be able to shed more light than I am, because they're dealing with it day in and day out. And I have some connections as well, that I could help facilitate that, but none of them would turn you down, because that's their heart and soul as well. So they would probably welcome you to come learn more about their operations, how it's evolved, and how their funding sources have been coming in, and what percentage is from donations and grants and so forth. That's probably a good first step in addition to identifying your champions and board members. Sorry, Jane, I kind of rambled a bit. I hope I answered your question.
Well, I think that seems to about do it. I want to make sure to give Bernard the floor here. I just want to say thank you to Bernard Kendrick, our Public Works Director, and Councilmember Goldberg for kind of pushing for this presentation to happen. And of course, thank you so much, Mickey, for
Yes, absolutely.
literally donating your time to us.
Yeah, and really no need to thank me. If I can help, this is also my passion, right? I grew up as
I can tell.
I grew up as a tour guide in the Okefenokee Swamp in high school, so it's embedded in me. And if I can, help you all, within reason, I also have to stay, I have to make money. But I certainly, if grants come my way, or if I see something that is like, hey, this is perfect for the city of Pine Lake. I'll be sending it over to you all. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, now that I've been engaged and I have the passion, you all have the passion, you have a fantastic city. Do not underestimate the uniqueness of your city and the ability to make it something others admire and just want to, how can we do that, right? So don't hesitate to reach out and I will let you know if it's something I can get to or when I can get to it. But I do want to help the city be successful. And I do think a conservancy will help bring folks together and allow you all to work through some of indifferences or common interest. But it needs to be a holistic approach and not fragmented, or it's just not going to go anywhere.
Well, thank you again. And I
Yes,
know I feel invigorated by this whole conversation. I'm sure I'm not the only one on the call that feels that way. But I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Bernard to wrap it up. And I'm also impressed. When me and Councilmember Goldberg talked last week, we had hoped to maybe ballpark about an hour, and we are pretty much right at that. That's pretty impressive. So go ahead, Bernard.
perfect. Go ahead.
All right, thanks. First thing, like I said, I want to thank all the citizens who showed up, who showed interest. Maybe amongst the people that can everybody hear me? Can you hear me, Ned?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Loud
great.
and clear.
Maybe we'll find our champions amongst the attendees here tonight, as Mickey said quite a few times, and I also, want to thank you, Mickey, especially. The information you shared here, I believe, is invaluable. It's I believe it could kickstart this movement, and that's something that the I've been hearing over and over again, especially from Councilmember Goldberg, that this was something that is needed with the city of Pine Lake. That will, encapsulate the volunteer spirit and all those other things that you spoke of. And I also, lastly, I said I don't want to speak for the mayor and council, but I think from what I've heard that this was supposed to be a community-led effort, much in the same vein as uh, Plain and the other nonprofits. So, but I'll leave that up to the mayor and council of how when we talk about next steps, how we, want to push this out and the involvement surrounding, getting this effort off the ground. But like I said, I really appreciate your time and everybody that attended, and uh, and hopefully, we can, make this a
Make it
sustained
happen.
effort.
Yeah, and I will volunteer my time. Once the champions and or the city's, feels comfortable in moving this direction, I certainly don't mind attending, a monthly meeting, when they're set up, and providing, a third party perspective on it, right? So on my own time. So I'll throw that out there as well because again, I really want to see the city of Pine Lake maximize the uniqueness that you have. So I really appreciate everyone giving me a chance to talk about something I love. And, I look forward to hearing more about it. And please reach out if you have any other questions. I will send this out. I guess I'll send it out, Bernard. I'll send it out to you, and then you can circulate it as need be.
That's very generous of you, Mickey. What I'll do is I'll include that, send it to Ned, and he can include it in
Okay.
our news blast, and uh,
Okay.
and you can respond accordingly.
Yeah. All right.
Before we go, I want to get this on the recording. One, Ned, great job in organizing and coordinating and facilitating, but mostly Bernard, Mr. Kendrick, you brought this and you made this happen, and I just so appreciate that, and I think the citizens appreciate that.
Agree. Absolutely. Yeah. So, yeah, I concur. Thank you all. And thank you, Jeff, as well. All right.
Okay.
Anything else? If not, we'll log off and I'll send Bernard, I'll send you this and please don't hesitate to reach out as need be and if I can be of further assistance. Okay. And I hope you all have a wonderful evening.
All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Mickey, and have a great time in St. Augustine next month.
Yeah, this weekend. Yeah.
All
All
right.
right.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye bye.